What the heck happened to the market on Monday, and how should we plan for today, Tuesday? Are there stocks we should buy? Are there stocks we should sell? It's the Georgia runoff election. Oh my gosh. Hello everyone, me Kevin here. We have had some volatility to start off the year. Benchmarks on Monday were down 2%. It was the worst decline to the start of a year that we have seen since 2016. Amazon and Apple down 2%, Tesla up 4%, but volatility surged to the highest point since right before the election. The dollar went down, gold and treasuries went up, 85% of the S&P was red, cruise lines got hit hard, Apple had its worst day since November, and folks, whoa, what the heck is going on? Is this all because of the Georgia election? Or why the heck is this going on? What are the reasons why the market is so volatile to start off 2021? And what should we do? What kind of stocks should we buy or potentially sell regarding this election in Georgia? Let's talk. Quick reminder that if you want to join me in daily live streams where I talk about the market and my moves, consider checking out the programs down below. There is a coupon code that does expire on January 8th. And the super cool thing about that coupon code is that you can also use it in the bundles that are now available on the website link down below. So that way you don't have to email me for a bundle coupon code. You get the best pricing if you bundle up with these options on the webpage there. All right, folks, now let's get right into what the heck is going on. So first things first, concern about COVID is actually back again. It's back in vogue. Even though we thought that, well, COVID is not such a concern for the markets anymore because of the vaccine, it doesn't help that Boris Johnson reimposed a lockdown on Monday, saying there's more that needs to be done to bring this new COVID variant under control. This is the third lockdown that Boris Johnson has done, and he said, quote, "This means the government is once again instructing you to stay home." Well, we know that wouldn't work in America, but it's a sign of bad things to come with this new variant, and we are still unclear if this new variant is actually going to respond well to the vaccines that exist. There were some fake news stories circulating. I had actually talked about one of them accidentally, and I retracted that. But there were some fake news articles circulating that, all right, we've got good evidence that Moderna's vaccine can actually combat this variant with the same efficacy, but we don't have any of that right now. All of it is just fake news and fake fugazi, so unfortunately, we are still waiting to see if these vaccines are going to be just as effective against the new variant. Obviously, when that day comes, we find out this information, it will be very important news. But anyway, Boris Johnson says that this variant is much more difficult to contain and hospitals are under much more pressure than any time before the pandemic, and therefore a national lockdown is required. This immediately hurt things like oil. It immediately, the dollar actually fell as well, as it kind of like, oh, well, the new COVID variant's been spotted in the United States as well. The Dow Transports Index crossed a bearish point in the market. There's basically a 50-day moving average, and anytime the Dow Transport dips below the 50, it's seen as a bearish sign for, well, let's just say the last time it happened was when Wuhan locked down, okay? So there's the bottom line for you. When COVID gets bad, that gets bad. Or it could be, sometimes it's seen as a leading indicator. Who knows, though? We'll see. Because remember, Wuhan did lock down before February, so it's like, oh, yeah, that's not good. Anyway, the United Kingdom is also warning that we could see multiple years of a high COVID mortality because of this. And that's not just the United Kingdom either. It'll end up being true in the United States as well, because not everyone's going to get vaccinated. So there's a lot of bad news on the COVID front. When we look at, the United States, out of 15.4 million COVID vaccines delivered, only 4.5 million have actually been administered. Boris Johnson is saying to beat the pandemic in the United Kingdom, where they've got like a 69 million population, they need to vaccinate 2 million people every single week to end the pandemic. Well, we right now in the last 4 weeks are at a rate of about 1 million per, and we have 5 times the population, which if we wanted to be at the level of Boris Johnson to end the pandemic, we would have to 10x our vaccine administration. So all of a sudden, I think that maybe, and this could be why some of the cruise lines started selling off too, is we start realizing like, crap, we got the vaccines, but this ain't going to be over in Q1. It ain't going to be over in Q2. Maybe it'll be over in Q4, maybe, but that's only if we really ramp up. Like we need to 10x the vaccine administration. So that's a big issue. That's hurting and dampening a little bit of the recovery plays here. Kind of sucks. Number 2, the chief investment strategist at Oppenheimer said that the runoff elections tomorrow could be putting today, could be putting substantial strain and pressure on the market and could lead to, get this, a 6 to 10% off or sell-off if Democrats sweep. And right now, Democrats are in the lead. So if you're looking at this not from a political point of view, but just from a stock market point of view, if Democrats win, which right now they're in the lead, we've even got betting odds that show Democrats are in the lead by, a couple percentage points, 1.2-ish and maybe 1.8, somewhere around there. Well, then that's a potential sign that, we might see a little bit of a dip in the market here. At least this is according to Oppenheimer. And, I think a lot of people believe that there's going to be a dip in the market if Democrats sweep. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But on top of this, you've got the National Guard that's being deployed on Wednesday as the mayor of D.C. is requesting up to 600 National Guard troops to help prevent any kind of possible violence on Wednesday after the election certification. So you've kind of got a couple here, uncertainties, and generally the stock market does not like uncertainty. We tend to see the VIX, the volatility index, go up when right before elections. We see that as well when protests happen associated with elections coming. If they're protests alone, we usually don't see volatility go up. It's kind of weird. But anyway, right now, these are big issues. The outcome of the Georgia election is going to end up being a big issue, and we'll talk stock recommendations in just a moment on that. The third thing that's also going on is there are inflation expectations. Inflation expectations have really helped, in my opinion, push Bitcoin's insane rally recently, which has been absolutely incredible for Bitcoin. Congratulations if you invest in Bitcoin. And this is partially due to the fact that a lot of folks do not trust the government's data on inflation, and they might be totally right not to trust it. The government is saying, hey, we've barely got any inflation. Maybe we'll see some inflation in March and April when we compare March and April 2021 to March and April 2020. But I think a lot of people are saying, we don't believe your CPI. We don't believe your PCE, your personnel consumption expenditures. We don't care about that. Consumer price index, old news. We don't care about those things. And I get it, because there are a lot of things when we look around, we just see prices going up, up, and up. And we certainly see Mr. Jerome Powell going, brrr. So we can't be blamed for thinking that expectations for inflation are not only high, but they are rightfully high. Can't be blamed for that at all. Also doesn't help that you've got the Federal Reserve president of the Bank of Chicago, Charles Evans, saying that U.S. banks and the Federal Reserve shouldn't be shy of just letting inflation run. Let it run over even 2.5% in the long run just to get that average up. Yeah, those kinds of things make people a little bit nervous, and then you see Bitcoin go up. Now, Bitcoin has sold off a little bit later in the day on Monday. I think we got to like 34,800 or something incredible. It's back to about 33, but Bitcoin is so volatile, it's really hard to quote Bitcoin prices because the next day it's at the moon. Anyway, there are obviously some huge stakes for the Georgia election. Again, we'll talk more about those as well. But you combine the Georgia election also now with high-ish valuations, right? It doesn't help that on the Bloomberg terminal, there are now headlines bouncing around going, is this the start? ... And then they talk about the market crash, a.k.a. now on the Bloomberg terminal, they're introducing the YouTube clickbait. Anyway, the market... based on the Bloomberg Terminal's last report here, they stated that what they like to do is they look at the market on a 200-day moving average, at least this one analyst. And so they take the market, the S&P 500, draw the 200-day moving average, and they're like, oh yeah, usually the 200-day moving average is here, and we trade, up and down a little bit close to it. Well, we're like going parabolic off the 200-day moving average. So that causes some potential concerns, especially when you've got the S&P's forward price to earnings ratio that's about 21.1, 5-year average around 17.6, substantially lower. You've got the NASDAQ trading about 28.8 with a 5-year average of 20.4, like way higher, way higher. And then even at Apple, you've got twice the historical PE ratio going forward for Apple. It's really incredible. So valuations are definitely extended. But then again, hey, just to make a counter argument here, we realize as well that 25 to 30% of all the money that exists in the world today was created in 2020 during the pandemic, which that's nuts to say. And in some sense, you kind of can't be blamed for wondering, well, is that why PE ratios are up? Are PE ratios just up 30, 35%? And then you wonder, well, what about like the NASDAQ? Why would PE ratios be up substantially more, for example, the NASDAQ? Well, some argue that PE ratios are high in the NASDAQ because you get this higher proportion of tech companies that are more likely to reinvest their money rather than take it as earnings. And so you show companies that are actually losing money that are in like the NASDAQ or even the S&P 500, and because they show less earnings, but they have high prices, they totally wonk PE ratios because it's like, wait a minute, negative earnings and high valuation, that's bad for your PE ratio. That's how you create infinite PE ratios. Anyway. So that's all the stuff that's going on, right? And now we're going to talk about action steps here and cannabis and all that good stuff in just a moment, but this is the stuff that's going on. We got to think about these things. So we've got this COVID resurgence. We've got concerns about this new variant. We still don't have answers about this. We thought we would get answers on this. We just got some fake news stories that were circulating. I want to make that very clear in this video because I pride myself on doing whatever I can to try to deliver the truest possible news, and so if I say something wrong, I will do whatever I can to correct that as soon as possible. I don't feel bad about making a mistake. I regret making a mistake, but I can't feel bad about it because we all do it. So, but anyway, we do not, just to be clear, we do not know how the new vaccines will react to the new COVID variant yet. So that's a concern, and obviously COVID exploding is a concern. The UK locking down, it's a concern. It's always been a concern. The runoff elections, big concern. If Democrats sweep 6 to 10% sell-off of the S&P by Oppenheimer, that's a big statement. That's like circuit breaker day. Whew. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but we'll talk here in a moment. Inflation expectations totally makes sense. High inflation, inflation, even though technically assets fare well when there's high inflation, you don't want to be sitting in stocks, at relatively high valuations, which is another problem. When all of a sudden you get a surge of inflation, especially when people are at relatively high levels of margin, because now their margin rates go up if interest rates go up, and boom, what happens? Well, all of a sudden people got to sell their stocks to pay their margin and cover their margin. It's a potential disaster. So you've got some bad juju on kind of the horizon here. So now we got to talk about moves. What are we going to do moves-wise? All right. So let's go ahead and break this down. So what I want to do is I want to start by talking about what happens if Republicans win. So if Republicans, they only need to win one Senate seat. There are 2 seats up for grabs. Both are currently Republican held. And if Republicans just maintain one of those seats, just one of them, then Republicans maintain control of the Senate. You got Mitch McConnell in the Senate. He can pretty much continue to block any larger Democratic priorities. Now, technically, Democrats, even if they sweep, they're only going to have 50 to 51 votes, which isn't enough to get most bills done. You need 60 votes in the Senate to get most bills done, unless they change the rules, which they could change the rules. It's called the nuclear option. You could look that up. But generally, with 51 votes, you can confirm appointees, like judicial appointees or nominees. You can confirm cabinet picks, and you could pass certain bills. Could you do a big fat frickin' stimulus package with debt relief for students and universal basic income? Yeah, probably. There's probably a way you could get that slam that through with 51 votes. But yeah, most of that could potentially burn some bridges for future bipartisanship in other deals, though. And Democrats are going to need that. So it's not like it's a slam dunk clear, majority here, but it's powerful. It is very meaningful. So let's start here. If Republicans win just one Senate seat in Georgia, I'm going to hold firm on my strategy, which right now my strategy is pay down margin so I can find a little bit of pain in the market and then I can buy. Because right now I'm at about 21-ish% margin. I like being around 20%. I want to pay this down though, because that way if I can pay my margin down to about 10% margin, if there's a market drop in the future, I could take that extra 10% margin and boom, I could go shopping again. Or I just keep paying down my margin. If no opportunity comes up, Guess what I do? Because I don't keep money in savings, I put it all into the market. I go pay my taxes to take that out of the margin and then work to pay off the margin. Yes, and I'm serious about that. I hate keeping money sitting around in a bank account. It goes into the stock market. Anyway, so I'll probably stay the course here. Now, it is possible. It is, and be warned here, it is possible that if Republicans maintain control, it is possible we will see some form of an EV sell-off because there is a potential that we're not going to see as many EV priorities get pushed through. You know, for example, we might not see the Biden New Deal, which Biden differentiates from the Green New Deal, but some people say is the same thing as the Green New Deal, just with a Biden label on it. Whatever. The point is, Biden wants a lot of green infrastructure. We already got a ton of green items, by the way, in the last COVID bill. Last COVID bill has got not only an extension of solar tax credits, but it's got studying vehicle-to-grid power that is in the last COVID bill. I mean, the energy-related things in here, the tax credits, carbon offset. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this. So I think stuff like that can still come through, but we might not see the scale that we would with the Democratic majority. So it's possible some of the lofty EV names, Tesla, maybe even the switchback electrics, the Blink, maybe those sell off a little bit as they potentially see Mitch McConnell standing in the way of a real full expansion of EV and energy infrastructure. It could also end up hitting stocks like Enphase or NEO. But otherwise, I expect that if on January 5th, Republicans win and January 6th ends up pretty nonchalant, just quiet, like no major violence, no martial law or whatever, as long as we don't get anything crazy like that, okay, the day after, my expectation is stocks could be volatile for 24 to 48 hours, but we might just go back to the market that we saw in December. Not November. November, we had a market that was very, parabolic. December was a little bit more like, okay, that's up, that's down, that's up, it was very, very teeter-tottery in December. Anyway, now the big one, okay? So what do we do if Democrats win? All right? So this is where we have to take out the whiteboard because there are going to be some stocks that are going to be a very, very quick target, I think, for traders. And you have to keep remember that when people trade into a stock heavily, you have to be really particularly careful because traders don't stay around forever. They can run in really fast. And you don't really want to be like the last one in because when the traders leave, you kind of get bagging it, or you get stuck holding the bag, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. But okay, so what are some stocks that if Democrats win that we expect traders to do a little bit of jumping in on? Well, first thing, I would say you've got your typical cannabis stocks are probably going to move because if Democrats have a majority, if they have the control of, if Democrats have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, it would not shock me at all to see cannabis stocks move pretty fast. Because think about it, you finally, since 2008, you will have your first opportunity as Congress to actually get cannabis legalized potentially, or decriminalized at least, on a federal level. And there are going to be some stocks that we really want to pay attention to for this here. So one of the first ones is Canopy Growth Company. That's one that that has done very, very well after the Biden election. ACB is another one. And then you do have this one. This is a smaller company. I particularly like this company out of all of them. It's kind of been a middle performer out of the two stocks that I just mentioned here. But, it's also an over-the-counter traded stock. But, if they can get their second location up and running, this could be a big company. It depends how their second location goes. And I know they're working on their second location. I'm a little skeptical about not only the legalization aspect of it, but if Democrats win, that does pave the way for it. But I want to see how their second location goes. But if it looks like Dems are going to win, I wouldn't be surprised to see some substantial green over here. This is, you'll probably have to trade this one at like a TD Ameritrade or something. PLNHF. This is a Planet 13. It's kind of like a Vegas, like a vacation. It feels like almost like you go down to Vegas, you go to the Strip, and now you got to go to Planet 13 to look at the menagerie of marijuana we can choose from. But hey, incredible sales. You gotta give them that. The reputation they have, the reviews they have, the sales they have, the products they have, the customer service they have. Whew, I gotta give them a thumbs up. And let's just say, usually I recommend investing in products you understand and use, and I do not fit into this bunch. But these could be potentially interesting. I certainly expect our favorites to continue to do well, and I definitely think our Chinese stocks are going to do pretty dang well as well if we get a Dem sweep, because we're going to get less, in my opinion, resistance from Republicans to being maybe more, I don't want to say soft on China, but more like, let me put it this way. I think Biden is going to be a lot more capable of getting a deal done with the Chinese leadership and the Communist Party in China than Trump is. Because Trump likes to, we will fight China and they will pay. And that's fine. They're just different stances. Not taking a side, just different stances. And so, and Tesla's a big player in China too. So I do think all of these guys would do pretty well. Alibaba, I'm cautious on that one. I've never seen how these big antitrust lawsuits go in China. I get a little nervous when I hear that. I like my little Neo and my little Xpeng. These companies that just they stay out of the spotlight of the CCP. Okay. In fact, Neo uses the manufacturing facility at JAC, which is half owned by the CCP. So maybe that's like brownie points. Who knows? I have no freaking idea. I will tell you I'm a little clueless about China. Big play. Another big play here, okay? Enphase. Really, really big EV, or not EV, it's solar play, microinverters play. It's probably more of a microinverters play for solar. It's really a competitor to Tesla Energy. You've got battery technology, phenomenal for house batteries. Really good competitor to Tesla Solar, so that's why I like to have both of these. Now, another thing to keep in mind, like these might be good, but you're going to have some issue stocks as well. And what's going to hurt, in my opinion, if Democrats end up sweeping, is pretty much tech. Anything that I didn't mention here, like notice I'm not putting Tesla in that group, but I think tech probably going to get spanked. Apple, Amazon, Etsy, Peloton, Wayfair, all of these typical retail stocks, and not like recovery retail, I mean like online retail. The Dropbox, the DocuSign, the eBay, I said Etsy, EXPI. I don't know how housing would get affected. That's a little bit of a stretch for like an EXPI or a Redfin determination. I mean, they could potentially sell off as well, because you're going to have those fears about a potentially higher corporate tax rate. LMND could get spanked. Some of these higher valuation companies could really hurt under this threat. So tech, anything I'm going to put HV, so high value, I think is going to get hurt. Now, I do think that a lot of the hurt is going to be limited to what I'm kind of calling a short-term panic. And a short-term panic would be like, oh my gosh, Democrats swept. I can't believe that happened. Sell everything. And then people are just like, get all my money out of the market. And then you're going to get a lot of that. All right, maybe we overreacted. I could start buying in again. I think we're going to see some of that. So my strategy, if Dems do sweep, is not to sell anything, but I might go on a little bit of a shopping spree depending on how badly some things get hurt. It's going to be hard to say how long a potential sell-off is going to last, because I think it's going to take a while for people to realize, oh my gosh, we haven't had Democrat control like this since 2008. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? The easy ones, the like obvious, the duh ones, it's like cannabis, EVs, energy, okay? Like my 5-year-old could figure that out. These are just my favorite-ish. Except for the cannabis, I've never analyzed. The only one I've analyzed is Planet 13. If you want my analysis on Planet 13, which I did invest some money into, you could Google Meet Kevin Planet 13. But I haven't analyzed the other ones. I have analyzed these guys, though. So, but yeah, that the black part there, that's the easy part. I just want to give you the ticker symbols. But the sell-off in tech and the high value, there could be an opportunity to just say, hey, pick a basket of all the tech, and if it sells off 20%, shop, 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 shop. Even if it takes a little bit of time for us to get back to these prior levels with some higher taxation, or which is really just, personally, I think the higher taxation, let me just say this, I think it's a little bit of an overblown risk. I don't think Democrats are going to immediately, all right, we got power, let's raise taxes. We got to get a freaking recovery done first. Joe Biden's not going to promise $2,000 stimulus checks and then raise taxes right away, because that would be counterintuitive. It's like you're giving to take. That would make no sense. I think higher taxes are really maybe a second term or maybe second half of the first term, so 2 years out issue. And I think the stock market might have more of a sell-off in the future if that time came. But for this, I think we're going to have more of a panic blip, a lot of volatility. The VIX will shoot up. We'll have a sell-off, potentially, maybe not. You know, this market has been so resilient, it's just blown through things that I thought would have been a sell-off and nothing happens. And if nothing happens, then I won't buy. Then I'll stick with my Republican scenario. But in terms of nothing happens, I'll just keep paying off margin until something finally does happen. But if we do get a nice sell-off, and by nice sell-off, I mean like 10% declines in some of these names, the tech, the high value, I'll go shopping in those. But now the problem with the EV and the cannabis stocks is I think we're going to have to be pretty dang fast to get into these if we're trying to play the election result. And by the time the election result comes around, the stock market might be closed until Wednesday morning. So these are some of my thoughts. These are my plays. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing, sharing the video. Make sure to check out those courses right now. Now's the perfect time because the 8th is around the corner, folks. It is already the 5th. The 8th is around the corner. Use that coupon code. It will expire on the 8th. Use that coupon code. I've already extended it once, and that's it. To check out those bundle codes down below. And folks, we'll see you in the next video.